You probably believe that your dog feels your deep affection every single time you lean over to press a warm kiss against their furry forehead. This simple act of human love might actually be the very moment where a silent and invisible erosion of trust begins inside your living room. While you are smiling at their cute face, your dog may be showing you a tiny sliver of white in their eyes called whale eye. This subtle visual signal is often the first physiological warning that your dog feels trapped by your physical closeness and wants you to move away. Have you ever noticed if your dog licks their own nose or yawns deeply the second you let them go from a very tight hug? You might think they are just tired or perhaps a little bit hungry, but these are actually displaced stress signals meant to calm their nerves. Every day you perform these small gestures of love while remaining completely unaware that your dog is quietly enduring your touch rather than enjoying it. Think back to when they were a tiny puppy and how they used to wiggle their entire body with pure joy when you walked through. Now observe the way their ears pin back slightly and their body goes just a little bit stiff when you approach them for a cuddle. This transition from exuberant puppyhood to a reserved and cautious adult state is often a direct result of many years of misinterpreted canine communication. Science suggests that when we ignore these microexpressions, we are essentially teaching our dogs that their unique and silent voice does not actually matter. A dog that feels unheard will eventually stop trying to communicate with you and might instead retreat into a state of quiet and lonely resignation. Imagine a human relationship where your partner constantly ignored your boundaries and laughed while you were clearly expressing discomfort or a need for space. You would eventually feel a profound sense of disconnect and a loss of safety within your own home, despite the presence of many expensive gifts. Your dog is currently navigating a world designed for humans where their most basic biological needs for personal space are frequently and unintentionally violated. Look closely at the corner of their mouth right now to see if the skin is pulled back in a tight and jagged little line. This tension in the facial muscles is a reliable indicator that their sympathetic nervous system is starting to gear up for a potential flight response. We often mistake this high arousal state for simple excitement because we want to believe our dogs are as happy as we are in this moment. The physiological reality is that chronic arousal can lead to a breakdown in the bond you have worked so very hard to build and maintain. Before we dive into the 7 specific habits that change everything, you must ask yourself if you truly know what your dog is saying. The first major misunderstanding begins with the way you use your eyes to communicate love and focus during your most quiet moments together. In the human world, a long and unblinking stare is often a sign of deep affection. But in the animal kingdom, it can be a threat. You might find yourself staring intensely at your dog while they eat or rest, unknowingly triggering a primitive and ancient defensive response in their brain. If your dog suddenly looks away or begins to sniff the ground when you lock eyes, they are likely trying to de-escalate a perceived conflict. Research from Japan has revealed that a very specific kind of soft eye contact can actually release a flood of oxytocin in both species. This chemical is often called the love hormone, and it is the same biological glue that bonds a human mother to her newborn infant. However, this magical exchange only happens when the gaze is mutual and initiated with a soft, relaxed expression, rather than a hard, demanding stare. Think back to when you were a child and a tall stranger stared at you without smiling, making your heart beat just a little bit faster. Look at your dog's brow right now to see if it is furrowed or if their forehead seems smooth and relaxed as they look at you. Most owners inadvertently pressure their dogs into looking at them by using high-value treats, which creates a focus based on food rather than true connection. When you force eye contact, you are not building a bond. You are merely activating a learned behavior that lacks the necessary emotional and hormonal depth. The consequence of this constant visual pressure is a dog that feels they must always be on and can never truly relax in your presence. Over time, this lack of psychological safety leads to a subtle but permanent increase in their baseline levels of the primary stress hormone called cortisol. You may notice your dog starting to startle more easily at loud noises, or perhaps becoming more reactive toward other dogs during your daily walks together. These behaviors are often the outward symptoms of a nervous system that has been pushed into a state of chronic and exhausting over-arousal by us. Observe the base of your dog's tail to see if the muscles there are vibrating slightly, even when the rest of their body seems quite still. This microtremor is a physical manifestation of internal tension that most owners completely miss while they are busy scrolling through their own mobile phones. We are often so focused on our own digital lives that we fail to see the living being right next to us, pleading for understanding. The next hidden misunderstanding involves the very way we speak to them. using words that we believe carry a much deeper meaning than they do. Your dog is constantly parsing your tone and your vocabulary, waiting for a signal that finally makes sense in their complex and highly sensitive world. You probably believe that your dog understands every single word of the long and emotional stories you tell them while they sit on the rug. This beautiful habit of talking to our dogs as if they are human children is actually a very complex neurological event for their sensitive brains. While you are pouring your heart out, your dog may be tilting their head in a way that looks like deep and profound curiosity or empathy. This head tilt is often just a physical adjustment to better align their ears with the specific frequencies and pitches of your very emotional voice. Research from the University of York has shown that dogs are most attracted to a specific combination of high-pitched tones and very familiar words. If you use a very warm and loving tone but speak about completely irrelevant topics, your dog may eventually lose interest and look away. This mismatch between the melody of your voice and the actual meaning of your words can create a subtle sense of confusion for them daily. Think back to when you were in a foreign country and someone spoke to you with great intensity in a language you did not understand. Look at your dog's ears right now to see if they are swiveling like small radar dishes to capture the specific nuances of your speech. Most owners inadvertently dilute the power of their communication by constantly chattering at their dogs without providing any clear or actionable information at all. When you talk without purpose, you are essentially creating a background noise that your dog must work very hard to filter out every single day. The consequence of this verbal clutter is a dog that may eventually stop listening to your most important and life-saving commands during an emergency. Over time, this auditory fatigue can lead to a state where your dog feels perpetually overwhelmed by the sheer volume of human sound in the home. You may notice your dog retreating to a quiet bedroom or a dark closet just to escape the constant stream of your very well-intentioned talk. These retreats are often a desperate attempt to regulate a nervous system that is being bombarded by signals it cannot fully process or understand. Observe the skin around your dog's eyes to see if it is twitching slightly while you are speaking to them in that high-pitched voice. This muscle tension is a sign that the brain is working overtime to decode your intent, while simultaneously managing a rising level of internal frustration. We are often so enamored by the sound of our own affection that we fail to hear the silence that our dogs are actually craving. The next hidden misunderstanding occurs the very moment you walk through the front door after a long and exhausting day away from your home. Your arrival is a high-stakes emotional event that can either soothe your dog's spirit or accidentally trigger a cycle of intense and harmful anxiety. You likely believe that ignoring your dog when you walk through the front door is the most responsible way to prevent separation anxiety. This common piece of training advice suggests that a cold and neutral arrival will eventually teach your dog to remain perfectly calm and still. While you are intentionally looking away from them, your dog may be jumping and spinning in a frantic attempt to get your very first attention. This physical outburst is often a desperate biological plea to confirm that you are still a safe and reliable member of their small family. Research has recently revealed that owners who use the lowest arousal greetings actually report the highest levels of severe separation problems in their dogs. If you completely withhold your affection during the reunion, you may be accidentally increasing the very stress you are trying so hard to avoid. This emotional vacuum creates a spike in cortisol because the dog feels a profound lack of closure after several hours of lonely and quiet waiting. Think back to when you were a child, waiting for your parents to return from a very long trip, only to have them ignore you. Look at your dog's paws right now to see if they are lifting them off the ground in a repetitive and nervous treading motion today. Most owners inadvertently punish their dog's natural social instincts by following rigid rules that do not account for the complex needs of the canine heart. When you refuse to acknowledge their presence, you are essentially telling them that their immense relief at your safe return is a wrong or bad emotion. The consequence of this clinical distance is a dog that feels more insecure and more desperate to cling to you every single time you leave. Over time, this cycle of rejection and desperation can lead to destructive behaviors like chewing your favorite shoes or scratching at the heavy wooden doors. You may notice your dog following you from room to room like a silent shadow because they are terrified that you might suddenly disappear again. These behaviors are often a direct response to an unstable emotional baseline that we have created by being too cold and too distant at home. Observe the tip of your dog's tongue to see if it is flicking out quickly to lick the air while you are standing near them. This air licking is a classic sign of internal conflict, where the dog wants to connect with you but feels a deep and confusing social pressure. We are often so focused on following the latest training trends that we fail to listen to the ancient social needs of our own dogs. The next hidden misunderstanding happens every single day when you clip on the leash and take your dog out for their afternoon walk. Your walk is often a military-style march designed for human efficiency rather than the rich and complex sensory exploration that your dog truly needs. Which one of these 7 small biological shifts are you going to try first to rewrite the silent story between you and your dog today?